Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the World Economic Forum's latest Global Risks Report. It asks over 1,000 world leaders a pretty simple question: what's keeping you up at night? And let me tell you, the answer is, well, it's a lot. So this report is based on a survey of over 1,300 experts from business, government, and academia, and their collective outlook, it's pretty bleak. You can kind of see the whole story right there on the cover art. Our world is teetering on the edge of a precipice. So how many of those experts are feeling optimistic? Get this, just 1%. Yeah, only 1% of them expect a calm outlook for the world. Pretty much everyone else is bracing for a turbulent, stormy, or at the very least, an unsettled future. Now, the report kind of splits these risks into two buckets, two different time frames. First, let's look at the 2-year outlook. These are the immediate dangers, the fires that have leaders most worried right now. So in the short term, what are we looking at? Well, the landscape is really dominated by human-made crises. Things like geoeconomic confrontation, the insane spread of misinformation, and the polarization that's just tearing societies apart. Those are the top concerns. And that number one concern, geoeconomic confrontation, is especially alarming because of how fast it's climbed the ranks. It leaped 8 positions right to the top. It just reflects this deep anxiety about trade wars, sanctions, and nations using their economies as actual weapons. Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. The whole picture completely flips when we stop looking at the next 2 years and zoom out to the next 10. And this slide right here perfectly illustrates the core tension of the entire report. You see, the immediate crises, the political infighting, the economic battles, they're so loud and so distracting that they're drowning out the slow-burning, truly existential threats from climate change. I mean, just look at this. When you look at the top 10 risks over the next decade, environmental dangers completely take over the landscape. A full half of the list is dedicated to climate-related threats, from extreme weather to the collapse of entire ecosystems. And to put a real number on that, that's the estimated global insured losses just from natural catastrophes in 2025 alone. It really highlights the massive and still growing economic hit from these environmental risks that leaders see absolutely dominating the coming decade. All right, now let's talk about 2 critical risks that are kind of weaving their way through all the others, influencing both the present and the future. And those are inequality and artificial intelligence. For the second year in a row, experts are pointing to inequality as the central risk, the one that connects to and makes almost every other crisis worse. It's not just a problem, they're saying, it's the root of many other problems. You can think of it as a threat multiplier. It pours gasoline on the fire of those societal divides we saw earlier. It can trigger economic downturns, and it just weakens our collective ability to solve any of these big, complex problems together. Okay, now let's switch gears to AI. You might be surprised by this. In the short term, the risk from adverse outcomes of AI is ranked way, way down at number 30. So right now, it's seen as a pretty distant threat. But, and this is a huge but, over the next decade, it makes the single biggest jump of any risk in the whole survey, skyrocketing all the way to number 5. This just shows this rapidly growing anxiety among leaders about what could happen down the road. You know, things like massive job displacement, or even scenarios where we could lose control. So where does this all leave us? Well, it brings us to the fundamental challenge of the entire report, a retreat from multilateralism. What does that mean? Basically, as our problems get bigger, our willingness to work together is shrinking. And this chart is just stunning. A whopping 68% of global leaders believe the world is heading towards a fragmented order. An order where different powers just compete and set their own regional rules instead of cooperating on a global scale. And this is the central paradox of the whole report, right? Just as our problems, from climate change to AI, are becoming more global and interconnected than ever before, our ability to actually solve them together seems to be breaking down. We're getting more competitive right when we need to be more cooperative. And that leaves us with the critical, nagging question at the very heart of this report. As the dangers we face get more tangled up and more global, our world seems to be pulling apart at the seams. So the big question is, will we be able to bridge those divides and work together when it matters most? Because really, the answer to that question is going to define the next decade.